In this session, we're going to be looking at answering the question, who was Boudica? So we're going to be finding out who this person was and discovering what different people felt about her. So what the Celts felt and the Romans felt. So let's start by looking at this picture and asking a couple of questions. Do you know who this character is on the image? And what can you tell about this character from this picture? So I want you to pause this video just for a moment. I want you to think about those two questions about this image. So do you know who this is? And the big hint's going to be what this lesson's about. But then secondly, what can you tell about her from this picture? So think, pair, and then share your ideas about what you think this person would be. So in answer to who this is Boudica. And the name Boudica can be pronounced in two ways. So we can call her Boudica or Boudica. So for this series of sessions, I'm going to call her Boudica. And she was the wife of someone called Prasutagus, who was the king of the Celtic Iceni tribe. Now, if you remember when we talked about the Celts previously, we said they weren't sort of one huge country, but they were like little groups of people, so tribes. And one of those tribes was called the Iceni tribe. And that's where Boudica and her husband, Prasutagus, came from. When the Romans invaded in 43 AD, they allowed Prasutagus to keep his land. So they allowed him to keep as the king of this Celtic tribe. However, Prasutagus died, and when he did, Boudica became the queen of the Iceni. However, the Romans weren't used to this idea, so what they did is they took control of all the Iceni lands by force. They didn't believe that Boudica could be their leader. And they confiscated all of their properties, and all the dead king's relatives were made slaves. And when Boudica protested against this, as the queen of the Iceni, they beat and flogged her and her daughters. So how do you think this made Boudica feel? The fact that she was queen of the Iceni tribe, and she was being treated this way, despite the fact her husband, the king, had been treated very differently. And how do you think it made the rest of the Iceni tribe feel? Again, think about the idea. When Prasutagus was in charge, they'd been left alone, they'd been okay. Boudica becomes queen, problems arise. So how do you think both these sects are going to be feeling? Boudica as the leader and the Iceni as those followers. Pause the video and come and join me when you're ready to share your ideas. Now, Boudica was furious with the Roman rulers. She thought they were being tyrannical and evil, and their actions caused widespread resentment towards the Romans' rule of Britain. What this means in normal language is Boudica was really angry, and she thought that the Romans were terrible people, they were liars, they were taking advantage of the situation, and what they did actually caused lots of Britons who'd been quite happy under Roman rule feel the same way, and it started making normal Britons, the Celts, angry that the Romans were there. So you always had one group that would have probably hated the Romans being there anyway, but now you've got lots more joining them, so we don't want them here because now they're doing things which they said they wouldn't have done. So a couple of questions about this for you to think about. What do you think Boudica did now? Now she was feeling this way with the Romans and also having other people agree with her. And then your second part for this is, what would you have done if you'd been her? So imagine we've got this person who, when the Romans first invaded, you were left alone, everything was fine. However, your husband dies, you take control, and when you take control, the Romans start going back on their word. They start taking things that they'd said that you were allowed to keep. They started treating your people who'd been left alone badly and turned them into slaves. What would you have done if you'd been her? So pause the video for a moment and think about those two questions and how you would respond. So what do you think Boudica did? And then what would you have done if you were Boudica? So what did Boudica do? Well, between 60 and 61 AD, Boudica led a revolt. And a revolt is when a person or a group of people refuse to accept the rules and power of another person or group. Now, a revolt is usually a violent attempt to change the situation. So not like a peaceful protest that we might see in today's news. So Boudica led that revolt against the Romans, and she led the Iceni and other tribes who were unhappy with Roman rule into a battle, and they marched to Colchester. Why did they go to Colchester? Well, Colchester was the capital of Roman Britain, and when they arrived there, they defeated the Roman legion there. And if you remember from our previous learning, that Roman legion would have been about 5,000 men, 5,000 highly trained Roman soldiers. So, what's your opinion of Boudica and her decision to revolt against the Romans? Do you agree that she was correct? Do you think that she was wrong? Pause the video for a moment and think about what your thoughts are and why you believe this. I'm going to give you a few moments, then come and join me when you're ready. So now you've thought about how you feel, how do you think the Celts felt about Boudica's actions in this instance? What did you think about what Boudica did, marching had joined Celtic tribes all the way to the capital Colchester, where they battled and defeated the Roman legion? And once you've thought about what the Celts thought, what about the Romans? How do they feel about this Celtic leader marching a group of tribes over to their capital and defeating one of their famous legions, 5,000 highly trained soldiers? Pause the video and think about those, and then come and join me when you're ready to share your ideas. So now you've had an opportunity to think a little bit about what Boudica did and about how the Romans and Celts would have felt about this character. Now I want you to write down a little description of your opinion of Boudica. So I want you to firstly to think of yourself as a Celt from the Iceni tribe, and I want you to write a description of your opinion of Boudica. Think about your reasons for that. So think about sort of what it was like when Prasutagus was their leader and what happened to Boudica and the people from the Iceni tribe. And once you've done that, I want you to think you're a Roman legionary, so a Roman soldier. And what do you think of Boudica and why? So think about the fact that she's marched onto your capital, Colchester. She's defeated one of your legions of 5,000 Roman soldiers. So in this, imagine from both points of view what the Boudica was like and see how your opinion is going to change depending on who they are. So a few questions to help you when thinking about this. So do you think Boudica and her tribe were treated fairly by the Romans? So when Prasutagus dies all the way through to that battle, that revolt in Colchester, do you think they are being fairly treated? How would the Celts think about this question? How would the Romans answer it? Do you agree or disagree with Boudica's decision to revolt against the Roman rule? Again, think about her reasons for doing this, and what would a Roman think about that? And what would a Celt think about it? Is Boudica brave or foolish? Would they both think the same thing? Why would they think these? And then our final point to think about: is Boudica going to be successful in defeating the Romans? How would a Celt think if they were answering that question, and what would a Roman think about it? So think about those 4 questions when you're coming up with those descriptions of Boudica to see how the Celts would have seen how differently that would have been to the Romans. So good luck with this one. I look forward to seeing your descriptions to see what the differences would be.